Not the Parisian.
Well,
No.
trying to make him a bit bigger than he was. Anyway,
yes.
look, it's really nice.
Not the Parisian.
Well,
No.
trying to make him a bit bigger than he was. Anyway,
yes.
look, it's really nice.
Thank you.
That's my way of saying hello to you anyway. But I mean, how long have you lived in the States now?
I went over there to live in 1979 with the rehearsals of Barnum when we first started to prepare Barnum for Broadway. And so that's been about 7 years now.
Don't you miss us dreadfully?
Absolutely, I do. Of course I do. That's why I'm here now.
Oh, good.
No, I come back to England as often as I can, 3 to 4 times a year, and I have the family over here, and they're all growing up now, and all 6 foot tall. And I have my brother and his children and my ex-mother-in-law, so
they're all back here. So
they're all here, so I'm still visiting them quite a lot.
What's incredible is that most people over here, you must have come across this so many times before, but most people over here think Barnum was invented by Michael Crawford. And in fact, you were the first person to take it onto the stage in Broadway, weren't you?
That's right, yes. No, we had about 10 weeks rehearsal when we just had a script that just had the basic shape of the show. There was nothing in it in the way of all the tricks and stunts, etc. This came about at rehearsal, and I attempted them with the knowledge that had I not been capable of doing them after 10 weeks, then we can always change the scene and we can change the description of what Barnum does and settle for something less. Luckily, all the tricks, I suppose through being physical and having some very good teachers, all the tricks seemed to work, and after 8 weeks, a lot of us were walking the tightrope. It's not a difficult thing.
Now, I can remember you doing some fairly agile stunts in the Carry On films, so I suppose
I've always had these things thrown at me. I suppose going back many, many years, I used to go to ballet and tap when I was a kid, and tumbling. And I knew how to fall, so it was quite, you know, an adventure for me to say, well, instead of getting a stunt man to fall down the stairs, why don't you let me, because I can do it. And it was only later that I realized that every stunt man deserves to earn a day's work, so don't be an idiot and do it. Let the stunt man go out and show that he, too, is much better at it than you.
That's why I let Nick do the difficult bit.
That's what I thought.
Okay, our special guest is Jim Dale, a man of thousands of talents, and he's going to be talking to us again in a moment.
Well, I'm sharing the sofa this morning with 2 extremely macho gentlemen, and I just wonder what their intimate revelations are about what you think of ladies in bikinis. Nick, first.
Jim.
Oh, lots of... You're rotten. Yeah, I think lots of thoughts about ladies in bikini. No, I'm married. I don't have those thoughts anymore.
Oh, don't you?
Mind you, a few of them passed my... when I watched that just then.
It was quite nice, wasn't it?
Yes, but the latest bikini sure is only the little bottom bit. They don't include the top anymore, do they?
It's just a kini.
It was a kini, a mini kini, yes.
Anyway, that's 40 years ago. I'm astonished it's that long ago. It's invented. I thought it was more recent than that, funnily enough.
Sorry.
But actually seeing you, I shouldn't put it like this, Jim, but it sort of makes me feel quite nostalgic, because I think of things like 6-5 Special and whatever, which was, what, 30 years ago? Eh? Go on.
It was, I don't know about that. Yes, yeah. No, it was a long time ago. This is about 30 years ago. God, 30 years. But those were the days when, you know, this was the first rock and roll show that we had on English television, and I think most people know the story, but... You know, I wasn't a singer. I was a warm-up comic, and I went along to warm up the audience at the 6-5 Special, and I borrowed, I think, Tommy Steele's guitar. And I sang a song, and afterwards they said, can you come back next week? And I said, well, I don't have many more jokes. And they said, well, no, we don't want you to joke. We want you to be on the show as a singer. And I said, but I can't sing. They said, no, we know, but we haven't got enough singers. So I went on. I started singing, and I kept going back every week, and George Martin thought, well, if they're going to book this nut every week just to sing, why don't Parlophone record him? So I became George Martin's first recording.
Gosh, George Martin's coming out very strongly in one of the newspapers this morning.
Yes, I read about it.
Saying how little talent there is about, and you were reading something in another paper about the same thing.
Yeah, John Blake saying there's no real talent about anymore. And
well, it's because, as George said, you know, the instruments these days enable you to make a record without having played the instrument at all, which makes a lot of difficulty for you to go out and do a public appearance as a group.
There's a group called Zieg Zieg Sputnik. Have you heard of them?
I must admit I haven't.
Well, they were sitting where you're sitting not so long ago, and their whole philosophy is that you don't have to be talented at all. All you have to do is hype.
That's fine. I agree there. You don't, because I think everybody should be famous for 5 minutes, and probably that's as long as they'll last. You can't stay up there without the talent. You can stay up there for a little while with luck, and a lot of people do. But overall, you know, the talent has to show itself. The experience is necessary. You know, you have to have it to stay up there.
How did you sort of end up branching out in so many directions? Because I mean, at one stage, I suppose it would be the late 50s, you had a sort of pink car, and you were being screamed at and mobbed.
That's right.
Top sort of singer.
Yes, you know, you go through all these phases. You know, yes, I had the flashy things. Everybody, you grow up. You go through all these stages.
And it must be wonderful to have a pink car and be mobbed when you are a young man who...
That's what I thought the image was. You know, you won't get mobbed unless you get a pink car. Actually, I saw this pink car, and I did love it. I did love it. But
what sort of car was it?
Attractive.
It was a pink one, as I just said.
Yes.
It was, I don't know what it was. I can't remember.
Maybe it was a pink E-Type.
But as I said, no, it wasn't.
They
No, I don't.
invented E-Type.
No, they hadn't, no.
Oh.
No, I went through these phases.
It had a running board, didn't it?
Oh, yes, that's right, yeah. But it was marvellous in those days because, you know, suddenly you decide you're going into show business for a career, and a career, you should explore every avenue of that career to make it even more interesting. So consequently, I did go up many, many branches of that showbiz tree, and I didn't quite like it, and I came back down very quickly. But having explored all of them, this is what you should do, and there are many more avenues still to explore after all these years. Yeah. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it fun to be in.
The next avenue to explore is a commercial break. Thank you, Jim. You certainly get around.
No.
Yeah, and you've worked with Jim Dale, haven't you?
Yes, we just remembered that we were both in a miniseries. We never saw each other, never had a scene together, but we were... The miniseries was so large and there were so many actors in it. We actually both worked in it and never saw.
We might see that over here, I hope. Huckleberry, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It was a wonderful production.
Thank you.
Well, Geraldine, it's lovely to talk to you. I hope the film's as big over here as it obviously has been in the States.
Well, is it?
Absolutely smashing. I really do.
She's been
Jim
lovely
She's
lady.
been quite tremendous in Antigua.
If she's like her father, I'll date her father if she's on stage.
He isn't anywhere near as good looking as her.
He's
Hi, it's 5 to 9. You're watching Good Morning Britain in Northumberland. Well, why not?
Okay.
Jim Dale, tell us what's next for you. What are you doing at the moment? You're over here just to see friends and things, are you?
Well, I came over here for...
Antiques.
Oh, well, I came over for that. That's a lovely reason to come back to England for. There's a marvellous antique fair on at Olympia at the moment, and I always make a point of going along to see it. And because, you know, collecting antiques to me has been a hobby for 20 years now, and I found out there's a very strange law you've got over here in England, which is, it hit me. I went to visit my brother last week, and I went through Broughton, a little village, and there's an antique shop there, and I always go in, and it's a smashing little place, and I wander around. And there was a notice on the door, and it said closed on Sundays. However, the lady was there, and she saw me, and she said, well, come in, but I'm not allowed to open, and please don't touch the antiques. I said, why not? She said, well, I'm allowed to let you into the shop, but you mustn't touch the antiques and you can't buy them. I said, why not? She said, because it's Sunday and they've clamped down on it. However, she said, if my shop was at the seaside, then you could not only come in and touch the antiques, but you could buy them. And I said, why? She said, because you'd be a tourist. They only have tourists at the seaside, and the law states that tourists can buy antiques. And I said, but I am a tourist. And I said, you know, what determines a tourist? How far from your home base do you have to be before you're called a tourist? And do you need a pass? And if you have a pass, can you buy an antique? It seems to me that this law has come back into England. It's a stupid, stupid law.
And it's still a matter of some debate.
Because on Sundays, that's the one day that people can get out with the kids and go round the countryside. And the best thing to do is to find these little places. We'll go in, wander around for 20 minutes, half an hour, and perhaps get interested in antiques.
I agree, but...
Oh, it's a stupid law.
We've debated it on this program many times.
Sorry, I thought I was...
The letters for and against are incredible.
Very passionate. But let me just say, it's good to see you both here from the States. But why are so few people coming over here from the States? Geraldine, you know, I mean, it's a big thing over here. You're perhaps not aware of it at home, but we're very upset that so few Americans are coming to see us at the moment because of the sort of terrorist threat and the fact that...
Well, I have no idea what to say.
We're on Concorde. There are only 4 people on Concorde on that trip.
Oh, my word.
Have you got an excuse, Jim?
Must have been maybe faster.
Not an excuse. It's a thought. It's a thought that if this had been a very carefully planned operation by President Reagan, then perhaps it's really come off because, to be perfectly honest, many people were saying, do something about the terrorists, and so he bombed Libya. That's one up for him, and everybody was cheering him back in America. Number two was that everybody was saying the European countries should come more together to combat terrorism, and that's the second thing that has happened because of this. They're now tighter security. Because of that, the American people are saying we're not coming to England or Europe because we're frightened. That's three to his credit, because he said he was scared that he couldn't protect American people away from America, from terrorism. So that's three to his credit. And the fourth one, which is probably a very, very important one, the economy of America is not much more strengthened by the millions and millions and millions of dollars that would have been spent in Europe, is now being spent by people going on holiday in America. So if that was the overall plan, I don't know.
Very special.
It's worked 4 out of 4.
Well, Jim, we must leave it there. Thank you very much for those words of wisdom. It's been good to see you, and you, Geraldine. Thanks very much for coming to see us today. And good luck to you both.